Michael Rockefeller was the 23-year-old son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller and a member of one of America's most prominent and influential families. In 1961, during a trip to what was then Dutch New Guinea, he disappeared under mysterious circumstances, sparking global intrigue that continues to this day. Although Michael's family connections opened countless doors, Michael was known for having a genuine curiosity about people from other cultures. He'd studied at Harvard University, where he developed a particular interest in anthropology and the arts of non-Western societies. Following his graduation in 1960, Michael decided to pursue that passion in earnest. He became involved with the Peabody Museum's Harvard Peabody New Guinea expedition, which focused on documenting and studying the art and culture of the Asmat people. Asmat are indigenous to southwestern New Guinea, a region known for its dense rainforests, intricate carving traditions, and, at that time, minimal outside influence. Michael was especially captivated by Asmat art, wooden carvings and sculptures that were integral to their spiritual and cultural practices. The Asmat region was remote and challenging to navigate, with thick swamps, frequent flooding, and virtually no modern amenities. Michael Rockefeller was undeterred by these difficulties and was determined to collect artifacts that would eventually be displayed in his father's Museum of Primitive Art in New York. During one of his expeditions in 1961, Michael and anthropologist Renee Wassing traveled down a major river in a dugout canoe. This trip would ultimately be his last. On November 17th, near the mouth of a river running into the Arafura Sea, their canoe was swamped and overturned. Michael, Renee Wassing, and two local guides clung to the overturned vessel. When it became evident they were drifting farther away from the shore, Michael allegedly said something akin to, "I think I can make it," and he swam off in search of help. The guides and Renee Wassing were later rescued, but Michael was never seen again. When news reached Dutch authorities and local inhabitants that Michael had vanished, a massive search commenced. Helicopters, airplanes, and patrol boats scoured the coastline, while local tribespeople helped comb the thick jungles. And yeah, let's just be clear here. Michael's powerful family connections meant that no expense was spared in the efforts to find him. For weeks, the search turned up little more than rumors. Dutch officials eventually determined that Michael had likely drowned or been attacked by sharks in the choppy waters. On November 24, 1961, the official declaration was that Michael Rockefeller was presumed dead. Even as Dutch authorities concluded their search, theories were already circulating about what might have really happened to Michael. One of the most persistent rumors is that he made it to shore only to be slain and potentially consumed by local tribesmen. This practice had historically been practiced in the Asmat region, though Dutch pacification efforts had largely reduced these rituals by the 1960s. Still, tales related to this sort of activity, especially involving a Rockefeller, seized the global imagination. Over the years, various explorers and writers have claimed to uncover new evidence supporting this theory. Some accounts reference alleged confessions from Asmat tribespeople, while others cite hearsay or secondhand stories passed down locally. Critics point out that most of these claims come from sensationalized sources or lack concrete proof. Bones or remains that could be definitively identified as Michael's have never been found. Another theory claims that Michael survived and chose to or was forced to live among the Asmat and remained there in secrecy. Though this idea is often dismissed as far-fetched, the concept of Westerners going native and leaving behind modernity is something that has historically occurred on occasion. One photograph purports to show a white man living amongst the Asmat, rowing a boat alongside his fellow tribesmen. And yes, you may want to look at the screen and see what you think of this picture. I think the likely best explanation may be that the man depicted is simply a massive outlier in terms of skin pigmentation, but there's always the possibility that this does depict Michael. Still, despite all this, no verified sightings of Michael have ever been documented. In the decades following Michael's disappearance, investigative journalists, explorers, and even some family associates have revisited the Asmat region. Perhaps the most notable was journalist Milt Macklin, who conducted an in-depth investigation in the 1960s, traveling to the area and interviewing locals. Macklin uncovered stories that seemed to point to Michael being slain by tribesmen, but he never found definitive proof. Also, full disclosure, Macklin is best known for his work surrounding the Bermuda Triangle, so he may have had a slight flair for sensationalism. In 2014, writer Carl Hoffman published Savage Harvest, which reignited public interest by presenting evidence that Michael was indeed slain as part of a revenge ritual. According to Hoffman, Michael was mistaken as a representative of the Dutch colonial regime. However, Hoffman's claims rely heavily on hearsay and questionable first-hand accounts from people who were speaking of events generations ago. The Rockefeller family has, for the most part, maintained privacy regarding Michael's fate. Nelson Rockefeller rarely spoke publicly about his son's disappearance, and official statements have never ventured beyond the conclusion that Michael was presumed drowned. For some, the lack of public family involvement only adds to the mystery. This has led theorists to wonder if they knew Michael wanted to get away from his privileged life and live with the Asmat. And if I haven't been very clear about this thus far, Michael Rockefeller was legitimately passionate about the Asmat and their art and culture, and wanted to experience it all firsthand. Though Michael Rockefeller's disappearance will probably never be fully resolved, his legacy lives on through the art he collected and the interest he sparked in the Asmat region. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here with a reminder to hit that subscribe button and share this video with 2 people you know. You guys sharing my videos has helped my channel grow so much lately, so I just want to take a quick moment to say thanks. In March 1898, the British Empire began constructing a railway bridge over the Tsavo River in present-day Kenya, a project meant to connect Uganda's interior to the Indian Ocean. What should have been a straightforward engineering feat, however, devolved into a 9-month nightmare when 2 male lions began systematically hunting and devouring the workers. Dubbed the Tsavo man-eaters, these lions became infamous for their boldness, intelligence, and unprecedented focus on humans as prey. Their story, an ecological mystery, remains one of the most chilling examples of human-wildlife conflict. The Tsavo region, a sprawling wilderness of thorny scrubland and rocky outcrops, was, and still is, a harsh ecosystem teeming with wildlife. For the British, building the Uganda Railway through this terrain was a strategic move to consolidate economic and political control over East Africa. Thousands of Indian laborers and local African workers were recruited for the project, which required backbreaking labor under extreme conditions. The railway's progress, however, came to an abrupt halt in late 1898, when the lions began their attacks. Workers initially dismissed the disappearances, blaming them on desertions, or the much more routine crocodile attacks they'd become accustomed to. But as bodies were discovered near campfires and tents, panic set in as it became clear that lions were responsible for these events. The lions, unlike typical predators, showed no fear of humans. They tore through flimsy barriers, dragged victims from tents, and even prowled the workers' campsites in daylight. By December 1898, the death toll had risen so sharply that construction halted entirely. Workers fled, and the project's chief engineer, Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, found himself tasked with not just a building project, but stopping these beasts. Patterson, an experienced big game hunter, initially underestimated the lions. He set traps and ambushes, but the lions seemed to evade them with eerie precision. In his memoir, The Man-Eaters of Tsavo, he described their, quote, uncanny shrewdness and almost supernatural ability to avoid danger. The attacks were gruesomely methodical. The lions rarely ate their victims entirely, often abandoning half-eaten bodies near the camp, a behavior that fueled speculation about their motives. Some workers believed the lions were evil spirits or creatures summoned by powerful magicians employed by tribes who opposed the railway. Patterson, however, recognized the predators were likely driven by opportunity. With the railway disrupting their habitat and traditional prey diminished by drought or disease, humans, largely unarmed and concentrated in camps, became easy targets. After numerous failed attempts, Patterson eliminated the first lion on December 9, 1898, and the second 3 weeks later. He recounted that the first lion measured nearly 9 feet long and required 8 shots to bring down. The second, shot after a tense pursuit, was similarly massive. Their manelessness, a common trait among Tsavo lions, added to their somewhat disturbing appearance. The exact number of victims of these creatures remains debated. Patterson claimed 135 deaths, but modern scholars suggest a more conservative estimate of 35. This discrepancy might stem from Patterson exaggerating for dramatic effect or conflating lion-related deaths with those from other causes. Regardless, the attacks were unprecedented in scale. And of course, the other mystery at play here is, why did these lions target humans? One theory, which I very briefly mentioned previously, points to environmental stress. The 1890s saw severe droughts and a rinderpest epidemic that decimated buffalo and other prey. With natural food sources scarce, the lions may have turned to humans as a readily available alternative. Another popular theory is based on dental evidence. One lion had a broken canine and an abscess, which would have made hunting large, struggling prey painful. We humans aren't known for our thick hides, which leaves us comparatively defenseless, even to a lion in need of serious dental intervention. Another factor that can't be overlooked was the railway itself. The construction disrupted the lions' territory, forcing them into closer contact with humans. The camps, with their noise and activity, likely desensitized the lions to human presence, eroding their instinctive caution. Along with this, these two lions wouldn't have had the manpower, or perhaps more accurately, lion power, to go up against an established pride of lions. And I'm saying this as someone who's watched all the Lion King films at least once. So yeah, you could say I'm something of an authority on the matter. The Tsavo man-eater's story didn't end with their deaths. Interestingly, Patterson had used their pelts as rugs in a Genghis Khan-like display of force to other lions who may have thought about crossing his path. After a few decades adorning his floor, Patterson decided to sell the lion remains to the Field Museum in Chicago, where they remain on display today. Their reconstructed forms, though lacking the menace of life, serve as a haunting reminder of their reign of terror. So there's a 1996 film based on this event starring Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas that I've been meaning to watch. Unfortunately, I can't give you guys a movie review here since I haven't actually watched it, but let me know in the comments if you have, and if it's worth it or not. Hanako-san is a very prominent figure in Japanese urban folklore. This legend tells of the spirit of a girl named Hanako who haunts school bathrooms across Japan. The tale has become deeply ingrained in Japanese culture, especially among school children, and has been depicted in various media forms. The legend of Hanako-san dates back to the 1950s. According to the story, Hanako-san is the ghost of a young girl who resides in the third stall of the girls' bathroom, typically on the third floor of a school building. To summon her, one must knock 3 times on the stall door and ask, "Hanako-san, are you there?" If she is present, she responds with, "Yes, I am." Upon opening the stall door, witnesses might see a young girl with a bobbed haircut, wearing a red skirt or dress. In some versions of the tale, Hanako-san's appearance is accompanied by a bloody or ghostly hand, and she may pull the individual into the toilet, leading them to hell. Alternatively, the person might be eaten by a 3-headed lizard, claiming that they invaded Hanako's privacy. The origins of Hanako-san's spirit vary across different accounts. In one version, she was a child during the war who hid in the school bathroom during an air raid and tragically perished. Another rendition suggests she was slain by a stranger in the 3rd stall of a 3rd-floor bathroom. Yet another version claims she rendered herself the opposite of alive in, you guessed it, a 3rd stall of a 3rd-floor bathroom. Hanako-san's legend has become a widespread phenomenon in Japanese schools. Children often challenge each other to summon her, turning the tale into a test of courage in a way equivalent to summoning Bloody Mary. This practice has cemented Hanako-san's status as a fixture of Japanese urban folklore over the past 70 years. The legend of Hanako-san has also permeated popular culture. She's been depicted in various films, manga, anime, and video games, with perhaps the most famous iteration being the manga series, Toilet-Bound Hanako-kun, which gender swaps her. On the night of January 27, 1976, 22-year-old Kyle Clinkscales, a junior at Auburn University and part-time bartender at the Moose Club in LaGrange, Georgia, left work around 11 p.m. He had intended to make the routine 35-mile drive back to campus where he lived. He never arrived, and neither he nor his 1974 white Ford Pinto were seen again for decades. Initially, Kyle's parents, John and Louise Clinkscales, didn't realize their son was missing. It wasn't until the following Sunday, when Kyle failed to make his routine weekly call, that concern set in. They visited his apartment in Auburn, only to learn from his roommate that Kyle hadn't been home since that Tuesday night. Alarmed, they reported him missing to both Auburn and LaGrange police departments. In the early stages of the investigation, authorities considered the possibility that Kyle had left voluntarily. He had faced academic challenges, having previously dropped out of another institution before enrolling at Auburn. However, as days turned into weeks with no word from him, the theory of foul play gained traction. Over the years, various leads emerged, but none brought closure. In 1981, a man claiming to be Kyle surfaced, alleging he had suffered from amnesia following a car accident in 1976. While his handwriting bore similarities to Kyle's, dental records ultimately disproved his claim. And damn, I mean, the level of cruelty involved in pulling off a hoax like that is almost unfathomable. A significant development occurred in 1987 when a man walking his dogs along Flat Shoal Creek, south of LaGrange, discovered Kyle's credit card in excellent condition. Notably, the card had expired in 1973, 3 years before Kyle's disappearance, which raised some questions. However, his parents were able to recall that his wallet had been stolen in 1973. Investigators speculated that the card might have originated from that theft, offering no substantial clues to his whereabouts. In 2005, fresh information led to the arrest of 2 individuals. A man came forward, stating that at the age of 7, he had witnessed the disposal of Kyle's body. He implicated Ray Hyde, a member of the Moose Club and now deceased, as the perpetrator. According to the witness, Kyle's body had been concealed in a barrel, covered with concrete, and dumped in a private pond. This revelation resulted in the arrests of 2 living individuals on charges related to concealing a death and making false statements. However, inconsistencies in the narrative led authorities to question the whole thing, and no concrete evidence was found to substantiate any of the claims made. Charges were subsequently dropped due to this lack of evidence. A breakthrough came on December 7th, 2021, when a passerby noticed a submerged vehicle in a creek in Cusseta, Alabama. Upon retrieval, the car was identified as Kyle's 1974 Ford Pinto through its license plate and VIN. Inside, investigators found his wallet, credit card, and human remains. In February 2023, DNA testing confirmed that the remains were indeed Kyle's. Despite this discovery, the cause of his death remains undetermined due to the condition of the remains after decades underwater. Naturally, this has given rise to numerous theories regarding what happened to him. One of the most straightforward theories is that Kyle accidentally drove his 1974 Ford Pinto off the road and into the creek, where it was eventually found. It's possible Kyle was simply exhausted after finishing his shift at the Moose Club, lost control of the vehicle on a dark stretch of road, and veered into the water. This explanation aligns with the fact that his car and remains were eventually discovered submerged in a creek. If he became trapped or was injured on impact, he may not have been able to escape. Mechanical failure, low visibility, or even a sudden obstacle could have contributed to a fatal accident. For many years, theories of foul play were prevalent, so much so that in 2005, 2 individuals were arrested in connection with his alleged slaying. This line of thinking goes that Kyle might have crossed paths with someone, potentially connected with the Moose Club or elsewhere, who had a motive to harm him. The witness who claimed to have seen Kyle's body being disposed of described a more elaborate scenario involving a barrel and concrete, but that story was proven to be fiction by the 2021 find. Still, some wonder if Kyle was forced off the road or slain elsewhere, with the car then staged in the creek as a cover-up.